Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream this Sunday. I wish you a great day, dear friends. I hope you had a great and have a great weekend. Today is 17th of August, and this is a traditional, not just a ordinary news update, a live stream on both my channels on YouTube and Rumble simultaneously, but this is a traditional community chatter, big community chatter and fundraising stream. Hopefully it will work out good. And as always, I have prepared a news segment, of course, for you. And after news segment, I will join community and I will try to be as informative and interesting in my reactions to questions and the comments as I possibly can. And so, yes, as I said, it is a fundraising stream for new members of community. I will say that on Sundays, quite often lately, I am doing this not just community chat, but also fundraising stream as a sort of insurance policy for next week, so that if fundraising is a success, and target is $200 usually. If fundraising success, then I will be less stressed about next week because after all, we all have to pay bills, isn't it? And this job is a full-time job with regular overtimes, and therefore I don't really have time left to work somewhere else, right? Although I might be forced to do it. Let's see. It depends. It depends, of course. The better my work is, I guess, more support this project will get from community. So I'm trying to improve my work on a regular basis. Dear friends, if you want to support the project, you can do it through several means. I will say it straight away. You can donate through PayPal, through Boosty platforms. You can subscribe to my Patreon. Everything counts. Obviously, you can subscribe to my page on Patreon or Boosty and choose your level of monthly support there. I hope more people will join us on Patreon and Boosty. And also during the streams on Rumble, because my channel is monetized there, you can use a super chat feature to highlight question or the topic and also support this project. And you can become a premium subscriber there. All the links are under this video in the description box. And after the stream, I will put a pin comment on YouTube. Also, that's been said, I guess it's enough for an intro, and it's time to go through a news segment first. And I did prepare quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully you will find it informative and useful. And first report is, of course, around the recent summit between Russian president and president of US, Putin and Trump, that took place in Alaska. Russian president spoke about this summit yesterday while meeting with other high-ranking officials here in Russia. Let me give you some details about it. So we have a headline from RT: Alaska summit brings us closer to Ukraine resolution, said Putin. So Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed cautious optimism that the Alaska summit brings us closer to resolving the Ukrainian conflict. The Russian leader also noted that Moscow and Washington are on the same page regarding their need to end their hostilities as soon as possible. The talks in Anchorage, which lasted nearly 3 hours, as you know, dear friends, marked the first face-to-face meeting between Russian and American leaders since the escalation of the Ukrainian conflict in February 2022. Speaking on Saturday, Putin said that his visit was timely and quite useful. This is quote from his statement, timely and quite useful. Also another quote: their conversation was very frank, substantive, and in my opinion, it brings us closer to the necessary solution. He added, we talked about practically all areas of our interaction. First of all, of course, we discussed the possible resolution of the Ukrainian crisis on a fair basis. Putin detailed Russian delegation had the opportunity to convey our position once again calmly and in detail, as well as to discuss the genesis of causes of Ukraine crisis. Precisely, the elimination of the root causes should underline their conflict resolution, Putin emphasized, adding that Moscow shares the Trump administration's desire to put an end to the hostilities as soon as possible and ideally by peaceful means. And also Putin especially highlighted that Russia is very much interested in resolution of this conflict, final resolution of this conflict as soon as possible. This report from RIA Novosti is exactly about that. Russia would like a quick end of hostilities in Ukraine, as does the American administration, according to Vladimir Putin. We, of course, respect the position of the American administration, which sees their end for speedy and which sees their need for a speedy end to the military actions, and we would also like this. We would like to move to resolving all issues by peaceful means, according to president. And I think this is very serious. Russian side is and was always quite clear that Moscow would prefer, obviously, political solution to be found for a long-lasting peace, and to achieve this, obviously, root causes have to be addressed, and that's why me and many other people, and the Russian president himself, by the way, are cautiously optimistic right now, at least for this moment, after this summit took place, because Russian leader had the opportunity to basically spoke to his U.S. counterpart, also other U.S. high-ranking officials that were in the delegation, directly, face-to-face, and to explain in detail what Russian position is and why Russian position is such, right? And I think it worked, by the way, at least for now. I think it worked, and seems like Trump is on the same page. He also now, according to even reports in the media, prefers final resolution of the conflict over temporary ceasefire that was promoted by globalists and the globalist control regimes all over the Europe, right, from UK, France, Germany to all the others. Earlier, Trump himself was on that page. He was also talking about these temporary measures, but Moscow was very clear that Russia is interested in a real resolution, not in some temporary measures, right? And globalists are not happy about this shift in Washington's position. But nevertheless, let's go topic by topic. I will speak about European elites and their hysteria a little later. Also, dear friends, Reuters reported, based on its sources, on the alleged details of Russian initiative to end their hostility. I can give you some details from this reporter of the Reuters. So Reuters writes that allegedly it received their information about Russian President Vladimir Putin's proposal to end the war in Ukraine, which he voiced at the summit in Anchorage. The agency emphasized that information about these conditions is incomplete and is mainly based on information from sources in their negotiating group of leaders of Europe, United States, and Ukraine. So Reuters itself is acknowledging that this information is not necessarily complete, right? Which is a good thing to highlight because people might get confused, right? Nevertheless, let's go through points here that Reuters is highlighting. Kiev, allegedly, according to Reuters, Russian proposals are: Kiev will have to completely withdraw its troops from their Donetsk and Lugansk regions in exchange for Russia's promise to freeze the front line in the south. I find it difficult to believe that this is exactly the Russian proposal. I think Russian side, as Russian Foreign Ministry yesterday, day before yesterday, highlighted a number of other officials. Russian position is very clear on the matter of ceasing hostilities, military phase of this conflict, and the Russian position based on statements of Russian president from let's remember his meeting with the leadership of foreign ministry in July 2024. Nothing has changed since then. And at the time, Russian president said that Russian vision of roadmap towards the sustainable peace is that Kiev regime has to withdraw its forces from all new Russian regions, not just Donbass. Maybe Reuters journalists and some individuals in the West, public figures and so on, are confused, and they think all of the new regions of the Russian Federation are Donbass. But Donbass is, we call Donbass Donetsk People's Republic and Lugansk People's Republic. Kherson region and the Zaporozhye region maybe in the West have been seen as a Donbass, but it's not necessarily the case, right? So therefore, maybe this is a technical error on part of Reuters, because I'm quite sure Russian position is that Turkey regime has to withdraw all of its forces from all Russian new regions. That is not just LPR and DPR, but Kherson and Zaporozhye region too. That's how I see it. Nevertheless, let's continue. Russia is ready to leave the territories in Sumy and the Kharkov region if Kiev regime will fulfill first demand of the Russian Federation about withdrawal of its forces from new Russian regions. Some people, many people might have an issue with this position here in Russia, by the way, in regards to withdrawing Russian forces from Kharkov region and the Sumy region. But we should keep in mind that there was no referendums in either of these regions of this former Soviet Republic, Ukraine, and therefore officially Russia never claimed these territories, right? So to achieve a lasting peace, I can see reasoning behind their possible position of the Moscow that, well, if Kiev regime is withdrawing forces from new Russian regions, then we might withdraw forces from Kharkov and the Sumy region in exchange. This might happen, by the way, but there will be conditions, I think, from Russian side that once lasting ceasefire is achieved and their sides are on a trajectory to reach a sustainable peace, there have to be referendums in all over the Kiev-controlled territory, including Kharkov region, Sumy region, Nikolaev region, Odessa region, and people have to have a say. Do they want to remain part of the so-called Ukraine, creation of the Bolsheviks, or maybe they want to go on their separate way, fully independent, or maybe they want to join Russian Federation? People have to have a say in their future, right? So I think even if this report from Reuters is correct and the Russian side is proposing withdrawal of troops from Sumy and Kharkov region in exchange of withdrawal of Kiev regime's troops from new Russian regions, I believe there will be clear demand from Moscow that after ceasefire is achieved, there have to be elections on Kiev-controlled territory, so that government there is legit, at least partially legit, right? They have to have a legitimacy, right, one way or another. And currently, Zelensky clearly not legit president of Ukraine. Everyone understands that, right? So I think a Russian demand will be that elections have to take place, presidential elections, and once peace is reached, parliamentary elections will take place also, and maybe simultaneously referendums can take place, or little after presidential and parliamentary elections, so that people of Kharkov region, Sumy region, Chernigov region, Nikolaev region, Odessa region, Poltava region, and other regions will have have a say in their future. That's how it's gonna be, I think. But first, let's hope we will actually see the escalation on the ground and end of hostilities, right? Moscow is clearly for it. Next point that Reuters is reporting, that Moscow is demanding recognition of Russian sovereignty over Crimea. Obviously, I mean, this has to happen, and I will add not just Crimea, but new Russian regions. I know position of Western so-called elites, even Secretary General of NATO a couple of days ago, Mark Rutte, spoke about de facto recognition of Russian control over their new regions, but not de jure recognition. This might be sort of a compromise, unpleasant compromise, but I can see possibility that Moscow might live with that, right? But Crimea, Russian sovereignty over the Crimea have to be recognized de jure also, not just de facto, but de jure too. And I would prefer de jure recognition of Russian sovereignty, obviously, over all new Russian regions too. Let's see how will negotiations turn out. Next point that Reuters is highlighting, Russia expects at least some of the sanctions to be lifted, but it is not yet known whether this applies only to European restrictions or to American ones as well. Well, sanctions definitely are another topic, and I think it's not just Moscow that obviously interested to ease their sanctions pressure on the country and their country's economy, but I think U.S. leadership is somewhat on the same page, because they're clearly seeing that this sanctions war that they are waging against Russia and many other countries in this world are accelerating processes that are pushing this war towards their de-dollarization, right? So therefore, and their subsequent consequences of that. And therefore, I think it's not just Moscow that wants to ease this situation with the sanctions and tariffs and so on, but Washington should be interested in that too, right? European elites are a whole different story. They are too ideologized. European regimes that are controlled by globalists are full of Russia hate, and they will decimate their own countries, their own economies, livelihoods of their own fellow citizens in their sickening pursuit of harming Russia. So therefore, easing European sanctions pressure gonna be a difficult topic, but US, I think, is already on the same page with Moscow here, because these sanctions are harming US big time, and domination of dollar and US economy, right? Let's continue. And well, another point, Ukraine will be banned from joining NATO, according to Reuters. That's another Russian request. However, Russia is ready to discuss providing Kyiv with some security guarantees. Okay, understandable reason. Moscow was always clear on the topic of neutrality of Ukraine. So therefore, this information should not become a surprise to anybody. And there also another point, Moscow demands official status for the Russian language in part or all of Ukraine, as well as the protection for the Russian Orthodox Church, so that it will function freely. Also absolutely understandable demand from Russian side. So these are a couple of points that Reuters allegedly learned from US officials, European officials about Russian requests that Russian president highlighted during the Anchorage summit. We should take this information with a pinch of salt, but at least there are several points here clearly can be true, and there are in few other points, I think there is technical errors, let's say, on part of Reuters, because they just don't know geography, don't know history, don't know much really about republics of former Soviet Union, and therefore I'm quite sure they made this error technical error while talking about Russian demand that Kiev regime should withdraw troops from Donbass only. I think Russian position is very clear. Kiev regime should withdraw forces from all of new regions. That is not just LPR and DPR, but Kherson and Zaporozhye regions too. I think so. We will find out. We will find out soon, isn't it? But nevertheless, something that we should keep in mind. This report. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Trump wants to hold a meeting with Russia and Ukraine on August 22nd. As I said, dear friends, seems like Russian president was really successful. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Russian delegation went in with a very specific, very clear position. They explained to their opponents where Russia stands, and sides kind of find their coming round, at least on a number of directions. And Trump is in a hurry, kind of, right? Because Anchorage summit just took place a few days ago, and there is already announcements are circulating on the internet that potential trilateral meeting might take place on August 22nd. Bit skeptical on that, but you never know. You never know. So report is that US President Donald Trump told Vladimir Zelensky and European leaders that he would like to hold a trilateral meeting with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin and Zelensky as early as August 22nd. The Axios portal reported, citing sources familiar with the conversation, and we have a quote here. Donald Trump also told European leaders in a phone conversation after the summit in Alaska that he wants to organize a trilateral meeting with Putin and Zelensky as early as the next Friday, the article states. And it might happen, by the way. It might happen because if America First forces in US regain initiative in the White House, regain initiative in Washington, then they are forced to be reckoned with, right? And they have enough leverage over European regimes to actually dictate the terms, right? After all, US is a major superpower in this world and the leading country, dominant country in the collective West for sure. And when Washington says something, European capitals are listening. Maybe they hate this reality, but that's what is happening, right? So maybe Russian president, dear friends, were very clear about face-to-face meeting with Zelensky. He has no issue with that. But meeting to take place, sides have to have agreements in place. And if Trump, if his administration will manage to persuade European regimes that they should agree on Russian terms to achieve sustainable peace, then it might well turn out that we will see trilateral summit on 22nd. Theoretically, it is a possibility. Maybe it's too fast for developments, these serious developments, but at least theoretically, it's feasible, right? RT is also reporting that Trump plans a White House meeting with Zelensky and European leaders. And as I said, by the way, Washington, America First forces, let's say, if they have actually regained initiative in the White House and in the Washington political class, there is definitely forced to be reckoned with, and they will have opportunity, I guess, already tomorrow to persuade their European counterparts to take the peace deal, right? So US President Trump has invited European leaders to join Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky at the meeting at the White House on Monday. The New York Times has claimed, citing anonymous European officials. On Friday, Trump met with Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska, in what marked their first face-to-face talk between Russian and American leaders, as we all know already, since the February 22. Both men expressed their tentative hopes that their summit could bring a resolution of the Ukraine conflict closer, which we also know. On Saturday, New York Times quoted its sources as saying that Trump would receive Zelensky and that European leaders are invited to come along as well. And they might come, although by the way, we also have this report from Axios that Trump's conversation with Zelensky and the very same European leaders that he is inviting to White House did not enter easy right after Trump-Putin summit. And for example, we have this report on this matter that the phone call between US President Donald Trump and Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky after the Alaska summit on Friday was not easy, Axios correspondent Barak Ravid claimed on Saturday, citing source with the direct knowledge. Trump spoke with Zelensky for about an hour, according to Ravid, before Western European leaders joined the call. Also on the line were Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, both of whom had earlier taken part in their talks with the Russian delegation. The leaders of the UK, France, Italy, Germany, Finland, Poland, as well as our NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen joined the call for some 30 minutes, during which they were briefed by the US President, according to the journalist. Ravi described the call as not easy. True, he did not elaborate, adding only that Trump insisted that a fast peace deal is better than a ceasefire, which is a definitely important shift in position of Washington, isn't it? Because all we hear earlier before Trump-Putin summit was this temporary ceasefire from U.S. representatives, right? U.S. was completely on board with the globalists on this matter. And it was a globalist idea, globalist control regime's idea to reach this 30-day ceasefire because, the proxy Kyiv regime is desperate, right? And desperately needs break. That's how it is, right? And the globalists were hoping, I guess, that if they will manage to fool Russian side with this ceasefire, they will have at least 30 or whatever number of days to rearm, reorganize their proxy regime and its forces, and then restart again, right, these military hostilities. But it did not work, clearly, and we have more reasons now to believe that this did not work because, Washington is no longer on the same page with the globalists on the matter. And according to Ravid, journalist of Axios, Trump said that fast peace deal is better than a ceasefire. That's the Washington's position. But yet again, White House will have a difficult time, I think, persuading European counterparts and their globalist proxy regime in Kiev to agree on that because, for example, Reuters reports that Zelensky once again refused to acknowledge the possibility or agree on the possibility of withdrawal of Kyiv regime's forces from Donbass, and that is something that might anger White House and the U.S. administration big time. And we have already seen once, isn't it, what happened to Zelensky when he was in the White House and angered the leadership of local administration. Something similar might happen tomorrow too. If Zelensky, emboldened by support of globalists, will start acting tough again. We will see. But report is that Vladimir Zelensky in a conversation with the US President Donald Trump following his meeting with the Russian leader Vladimir Zelensky called it impossible for Ukraine to cede their entire territory of Donbass to Russia. This was reported by Reuters citing sources. According to him during their phone conversation, according to Reuters. During their conversation that lasted about an hour and a half, some media, Western media outlets are reporting that conversation lasted about an hour, some reporting hour and a half, hard to know, but nevertheless, Trump informed Zelensky about the results of Alaska summit, noting that the Russian leadership allegedly offered to freeze the front line on the conditions of complete withdrawal of troops by Ukraine from DPR and LPR. Yet again, dear friends, I think this is some sort of a mechanical error on the part of US leadership or the Western media, let's say, because I don't think Moscow would agree on a ceasefire if Kyiv regime will not withdraw forces from Kherson and Zaporozhye regions that are part of Russia, right? And the Russian constitution is very clear about that. And the position of the Russian foreign ministry and the Russian president himself is very clear on that, right? But nevertheless, let's continue. At their agency's sources note, Zelensky said that this was impossible. In another article, Reuters cites a source according to whom Zelensky rejected this demand. A Washington Post, in turn, draws attention to the fact that Trump's conversation with Zelensky and European leaders, which followed their one-on-one conversation between Trump and Putin, was much more tense compared to their consultations that took place on the eve of the summit. And yet again, by the way, we definitely have indicators to believe that tomorrow's meeting between Trump and Zelensky and also potentially European leaders, if they will attend that meeting, are gonna be really tense one. And my hope is that America First forces actually did manage to regain initiative in the White House. And if this is the case, then, well, I guess they will force globalist regimes in Europe, or representatives of the globalist control regimes in Europe, UK, France, Germany, Italy, and others, to obey orders of the Washington and do whatever they've been told. Nothing to be said about their proxy regime in Kyiv, by the way. I mean, Zelensky may act tough, as long as he likes to, but only in Kyiv, in his inner circle. But when it comes to actual geopolitical heavyweights, I mean, he's just an empty place, right? And to continue, dear friends, first of all, let me take a minute, dear friends. Let me take a minute to highlight, especially for potential new members in our community and on this stream, that this is a traditional Sunday community chatter, not just ordinary news update, and also fundraising stream. And after the news segment, I will join the community chat and try my best to be informative whenever I see a question or the comment directed to me. Please use capital letters if you can, to make sure that I would not miss your question or the topic. And if you want to help me to reach a goal of the fundraising, which is $200, we only reach this goal once since I started these fundraising streams. But nevertheless, if you want to help me with that, you can donate to the channel through PayPal, by the way, or through Boosty platforms. Links are on this video in the description box. Also, you can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty. Everything counts. So therefore, obviously, that will be great support too. You can use also super chat feature on Rumble, and you can become a premium subscriber on Rumble, by the way, where I'm streaming simultaneously right now, simultaneously to YouTube, right? And link to my Rumble channel is also, if you are watching on YouTube, by the way, link to my Rumble channel is also on this video in the description box. So that's been said. Let's continue with the news segment. I hope you did find the first part of the news segment informative and useful. And if so, please like the video, dear friends. It might help to reach wider audience. And the next report that I want to share with you is that, well, Zelensky is actually willing to go to Washington. Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky has announced that he will travel to Washington next week, tomorrow basically, for in-person talks with the US President Donald Trump. He said he and the US leader had a longer, meaningful conversation as they spoke about Trump's summit with the Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. He said that Trump had informed him about the main points of the discussion, and we have a quote from Zelensky: "I'm going to discuss all the details on ending the killing and the war with President Trump in Washington on Monday." And he thanks Trump for the invitation. Yet again, it's not going to be easy walk for Zelensky, by the way, I think, in Washington. And whenever we are talking about Trump and his initiatives or his statements, negotiations with different people, I always remember statements that were made by independent U.S. experts, their friends, including Scott Ritter, Colonel McGregor, Douglas McGregor, and others, who said on numerous occasions that in case of Trump, because he is kind of easily influenced, it is very important who is talking with him last. And so I think if America First group in US truly wants to be in charge, basically, of US and prioritize US, they have to make sure that they are not leaving Trump with their, alone. With the representatives of the globalists or their U.S. allies. And they do have allies in U.S. in the deep state, among neocons and so on, right? And if America First forces will succeed in that, I think Trump's position and the position of administration will stay the same as it is right now, which means that U.S. prefers, for now at least, to achieve sustainable peace instead of some temporary measures like 30-day ceasefire or whatever crazy ideas globalists have, right? So therefore, if this is the case, clearly Zelensky's visit to Washington gonna be some hard one, right? And the same goes for European leaders. Leaders of this so-called coalition of willing, by the way, that will gather today or will have a meeting, let's say. I don't know, I don't remember, either face-to-face or through video link. But nevertheless, we have reports that German, French, UK leaders still to decide on their trip to US for a meeting with Zelensky. The governments of German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, French President Emmanuel Macron, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer plan to decide on August 17, that is today, whether their leaders would be traveling to the United States for a meeting between US President Donald Trump and Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky. Germany's Bild daily reported. According to Bild, the governments of Merz, Starmer, and Macron intend on Sunday, August 17, to coordinate their actions and jointly decide whether who would exactly be traveling to the United States on August 18 for Trump meeting with Zelensky. However, such a decision requires an official invitation on behalf of the United States, according to Bild. Well, globalist controlled regimes might actually use some tricks, by the way, to avoid traveling to US, isn't it? That's what this report is indicating to me. I mean, Do they really want an official invitation written on a paper? Trump already said, come and join, right? This meeting. They've been invited, right? But if European leaders will now demand some written invitation, that kind of stuff, this, to me at least, indicates their weakness and their intention to kind of avoid this meeting, because they're afraid that they're going to be forced into submission there in Washington, right? The Daily reported that US President Trump offered Zelensky to invite European politicians to the United States. However, there were no official invitations extended as of yet. Bild added that European leaders seek to avoid a meeting intended solely for publicity. No, it's not for publicity only, by the way. There will be elements of publicity stunts, because Trump, being Trump, of course, he wants to be in the spotlight, but I think Washington is intended to force to submission leading capitals of globalist controller states in Europe, right? Nevertheless, we're going to find out. We're going to find out what is going to happen. If European leaders will go to Washington, it's going to be a hard day for them too, as it's going to be a hard day for Zelensky. And if they will refuse to go, that might anger Washington even more, right? And the very next day, Trump may come up and said that, you know what, I'm going to put on Europeans now, I don't know, 100% tariffs or something like. He can do it, isn't it? He can do that. And also, dear friends, also, as I already mentioned, the coalition of willing is a so-called coalition of willing, is intended to have a meeting sort of today. I reported about it on my Telegram and Twitter X pages yesterday. And the report is that the meeting of the coalition of willing will take place today on 17th of August. The meeting of the coalition of willing to provide assistance to Kyiv will take place on August 17. It will be held in the format of a video conference. This was reported by France Press news agency, citing the Elise Palace. The meeting will begin at 1500 hours local time, under the chairmanship of British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and the French President Emmanuel Macron, who earlier announced an upcoming conversation among the coalition members without specifying the date. It is noted that the parties will discuss the next steps within the framework of discussion on peace in Ukraine. And I guess main topic what they're going to discuss actually during that video conference, at least leaders of France, UK, Germany, is to whether they are going in Washington or not. I think that's going to be the main topic, right? And they might refuse. They might actually refuse, by the way. This report from Bild clearly indicates that they don't want to go to Washington. They don't want to be, pressured by Trump and his administration. Let's see. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, EU leaders have already issued a joint statement after Putin-Trump meeting. Let me give you some key points from their joint statement. Europe will continue sanction pressure on Moscow. How else? I did already state it, isn't it, by the way, that when it comes to this sanction policies, I think Washington and Moscow are far closer to find a common ground in this regard than extremely ideologized and Russia-hating European elites, right, and capitals that they control. So therefore, I think it is a possibility that if U.S.-Russia relationships will begin improving sometime in the future, Washington will begin lifting sanctions on Russia step by step, but European elites European elites will have a hard time with this. Only American pressure may force them to ease the sanctions, even though they know perfectly well that with this sanctions war with Russia, they are harming tremendously European economies and interests of European citizens, right? Social fabric itself in Europe. And they are just too ideologized. They are full of Russia hate, and seems like they are ready to sacrifice everybody in Europe, their own countries, their own economies, their own fellow citizens, for at least slight chance to harm Russia somehow. That's how crazy they are. Another pointer from the statement of European leaders: Kiev must receive cast iron security guarantees and independently make decisions about territories. This is all BS, isn't it? Kiev never made independently no decisions since 2014, right? After that coup d'etat, bloody coup d'etat that globalists and globalist-controlled regimes in the West, and the leadership of US, by the way, after they orchestrated that coup d'etat. And I remind you that Democrats were in charge at the time, right? And Democrats are allies of U.S. Democrats, are allies of globalists, right? So after that coup d'etat, no strategical decision was made independently by Kiev, only under the dictate of Washington and London mainly, right? Partially Brussels, Berlin, Rome, but mainly it was Washington and London in charge, right? Now situation is shifting a little bit. Maybe London is in more charge today than earlier, but nevertheless, this statement that just makes no sense, right? Because Kiev never made strategical decisions independently since 2014 and will not make. Another point from their statement: Russia should not block Ukraine's integration into EU and NATO. Restrictions for the Ukrainian armed forces are also unacceptable. And this statement clearly indicates the stand of the globalists and the globalist control regimes, right? They don't want peace, by the way. They don't want peace. They are all about prolongation of this proxy war as much as they can, right? Because this Russia hate, they just dream about destroying Russia and robbing Russia of its riches, right? Because seems like they think without Russian resources, by the way, they have no chances to compete on a global scale, and they're gonna lose, right? Their position of one of the dominant force in this world. That's all they care. Their own mercantile interests, these so-called elites in Europe and globalists. But this statement clearly indicates that they are not about peace, by the way. They are not about peace whatsoever. Also, another point in their statement: European politicians are ready to work with the head of the White House and Vladimir Zelensky on preparing a trilateral summit of Moscow, Washington, and Kiev. Okay, let's see what they're gonna come up with. Let's see if they will dare to go to Washington first. And there also another pointer: they welcome Trump's efforts to achieve peace. Yes, by the way, probably you have already noticed that these European so-called leaders, one by one, were making statements all day long yesterday and day before, right after Trump-Putin summit took place, praising U.S. president. Right? It was laughable to watch, by the way. But they all received memo, I guess, not to anger Washington, not to anger Trump, to praise him, how great he is, and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Let's continue, dear friends. And another news that I want to share with you in this new segment is that, as I already highlighted, Trump backs plan to cede the land for peace in Ukraine New York Times reports that Trump told European leaders he saw a rapid peace deal as achievable if Zelensky agreed to cede the territories of Donbass to Russia, including areas not yet under Russian control, according to two senior European officials briefed on the call. So yes, I mean, too many sources are reporting about this topic. I think yet again there is a technical error in their judgment. They think probably Donbass is whole territory where line of contact is currently located, including Kherson and Zaporozhye regions. In a wider understanding, I mean, maybe you can call all of it Donbass or Novorossiya, let's say, right? That would be more correct way to say it. But at in some articles there was some specifications that talk is only about DPR and LPR, and I think this is a clearly error on their part, on the part of Western, either politicians or the media, because I don't think Russian side would ever agree to freeze the conflict if Kherson and Zaporozhye regions are not fully liberated. It's a Russian territory, by the way, and they have to be liberated. That's it. Period. Right. RT is also, and it would be better, of course, if liberation of these territories will happen through political means, obviously. RT is also reporting that, yet again, another report that Trump pushes peace over the ceasefire topic. Ukraine conflict should be ended through a permanent agreement rather than the mere ceasefire, US President Donald Trump has said following his meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. And well, this time RT is referring to a post of US President that he made on his True Social account. And this is the post I am talking about. Let me read this, if I may. So, a great and a very successful day in Alaska. The meeting with the President Vladimir Putin of Russia went very well, as did a late-night phone call with the President Zelensky of Ukraine and the various European leaders, including the highly respected Secretary General of NATO. Come on, man. Highly respected Secretary General of NATO. Really, whole world is laughing at this. That moron, man. But anyways, let's continue. It was determined by all that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement, which would end the war and not a mere ceasefire agreement. And by the way, I don't know if Trump is sharing true information from that phone call, because he's saying that everyone is agree on this new position of Washington. European leaders clearly are on a different page on that, right? They want prolongation of this war. They were pushing for a ceasefire to have a break for their proxy, not because they want peace, by the way, right? But nevertheless, that's what Trump says, isn't it? That it was determined by all, right? He clearly says that Europeans agree on his proposal or on his idea. It was determined by all that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement, which would end the war and not a mere ceasefire agreement, which oftentimes do not hold up. President Zelensky will be coming to DC. He also wrote the Oval Office on Monday afternoon. If all works out, we will then schedule a meeting with the President Putin. Potentially, millions of people's lives will be saved. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Trump finalized his post, and yet again, I mean, let's hope, by the way, let's hope that American first forces in US will keep this initiative in their hands. right? Because if they will maintain this trajectory, we might actually see end of hostilities. We might actually see end of this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And I don't know about millions of lives, but for sure thousands and thousands of lives will be saved, by the way, right? So let's hope. Let's hope peace, actual peace, is closer than we can think or see right now. But yet again, not everybody is happy, by the way. Not everybody is happy with this shifter in Washington's position in regards to ceasefire topic, and that now is prefers to reach peace. And for example, I can give you this report that I shared just several minutes before I start the stream on my Telegram and Twitter X page, that Kiev's European allies will continue or convince Zelensky that they will provide support if Ukraine decides to continue military action. I mean, do you need any more indicators that the European elites, by the way, these globalist control regimes in Europe are not about peace? They are openly saying it, right? They are openly saying it, by the way. So Kiev's European allies will convince Zelensky that they will provide support if Ukraine decides to continue military actions. This was stated by the head of Polish Foreign Ministry, Radoslaw Sikorski. We have a quote here from him. "We will tell Zelensky that we will do what we have done so far, supply weapons, support, and ensure that their path to EU membership," Sikorski noted. And I can divide this information on the two parts. On one side, Sikorski basically is highlighting position of globalist control regimes in Europe. They want prolongation of this proxy war as much as they can. No surprises there, nothing new. But on the other hand, I can see why Polish elites are going to be tremendously upset, by the way, right now, because I think they are afraid that if Moscow and Washington will actually succeed in achieving sustainable peace, in that case, by the way, Warsaw, I mean, Polish elites probably, I mean, they are thinking that in that case, either they have to say goodbye to their dreams about reclaiming Polish territories in Western Ukraine, or they will have a tremendously hard time, by the way, doing so militarily. That's another point, I think, that is driving these kind of statements from Warsaw. And that's why Warsaw would be very keen to prolong this proxy war as long as possible, so that Kiev regime's forces will be decimated on the Eastern Front, right? And then when Warsaw will make a claim on the Western Ukraine, on 70% approximately of the Western Ukraine that used to be part of Poland before Second World War, they will have as minimal resistance as possible. Do you see logic behind my reading of this situation? Warsaw was this close, by the way, I think, in their dreams, that they're gonna just walk all over the Western Ukraine without any specific issues, right? Or without any extra difficulties, and reclaim these territories. But if Moscow and Washington actually manage to reach progress and achieve sustainable peace, then, well, Kiev regime will have enough forces, by the way, to give a good fight to Poland. If Warsaw will actually move to reclaim former its land. So yes, I mean, this is quite interesting. This is quite interesting. I can see hysteria in Warsaw, by the way. Nowadays, they're gonna be tremendously upset. Anyways, let's continue with some more news. And RIA Novosti is reporting, based on Russian Defense Ministry, that overnight air defense systems intercepted 46 drones that was launched by Western-backed terrorist regime of Zalinski to strike deep into Russian territory. I can give you some specifics on that. So 16 drones were intercepted over the Belgorod region, 14 drones over the territory of Nizhny Novgorod, 9 drones over the territory of Voronezh region. Unfortunately, in Voronezh region, one of the drones struck an apartment building, and there was casualties as a result of this. Building was damaged. Also, about 10 vehicles were damaged as a result of this yet another terrorist attack. 3 drones were intercepted over the territory of Bryansk region, and 1 drone each over the territories of Kursk region, Oryol region, Kaluga region, and Smolensk regions. Also, we have this report that Russian troops liberated the settlement of Kolodezi in DPR. Information is officially confirmed by Russian Defense Ministry. I reported, I believe, a few days ago that there was a significant progress of the Russian troops in Kolodezi direction, and now we have official confirmation of Defense Ministry that this village, by the way, here on Liman direction, this is, I believe, is under complete Russian control now. And in addition to that, we have a report that Russian armed forces finalized clearing operation in Voronezh settlement. This is Dnipropetrovsk region. And this village is under full Russian control now. And well, it is interesting. It is interesting that in the reports in Western media, when there is a talk about potential exchange of territories, there is no mentioning of Dnipropetrovsk region. All the Russian troops already have liberated quite a few settlements in Dnipropetrovsk region too. And this settlement, Voronezh, is in the Dnipropetrovsk region too, right? But nevertheless, I guess during the detailed talk, if it comes to it, everything will be highlighted, including Dnipropetrovsk region, Chernigov region, and many others, right? Also, dear friends, let me give you this report that group of French mercenaries were neutralized on the right bank of the Dnieper River. Russian drone operators basically spotted drone operators of the enemy forces, and they tracked their movement and basically targeted them, and through video footage, I guess, based on their chevrons, they made the judgment that this group was, 2 groups actually, that was neutralized were French nationals, maybe some special forces of French Foreign Legion or something that were learning how to operate with their drones or stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe just, real mercenaries from France. Unfortunately, so many people being brainwashed by Western propaganda that there are many cases, right, when people actually are joining foreign legion of so-called foreign legion of Kiev regime to fight against Russia, and hundreds of them being already killed, thousands of them actually. Thousands of foreign mercenaries have been obliterated already on the battlefield. But there were also instances in the past few years when reports were suggesting that actual special forces of the NATO countries were obliterated, right? From France, from UK, from other countries. And I remind you, dear friends, that among these so-called foreign mercenaries that were killed in Kiev-controlled territory, majority is from Poland. And some experts are suggesting that these are regular troops of Polish armed forces that were designated as mercenaries. And Poland lost thousands and thousands of its troops in this proxy war. Also, a few more news, dear friends, for this news segment. Well, the ruling elites of the West and their secret services continue to destabilize Serbia using their assets among local non-governmental organizations, their supporters, and a number of other structures. And I can show you, dear friends, some video footage of protests that continues to take place in Serbia, in Belgrade, and there are other. Take a look at this. I mean, is this civilian protests, as Western so-called media loves to say? I don't think so. They are burning down, by the way, buildings. They are endangering dozens of people. Look at this. It doesn't look like a peaceful protest. They're trying to burn down buildings, and who knows how many people are locked inside and afraid to come out. Unfortunately, Serbia is on a brink, on a crossroads, basically, on a crossroads, and I'm afraid it is only a matter of time, and there is a high probability that Brussels or globalists and their globalist control regimes that are orchestrating this destabilization of Serbia will manage to either force government of Vučić to agree on early elections, or maybe they will just orchestrate another regime change there. And Serbia, unfortunately, already had experience of regime change, right? And it's not just Serbia, dear friends. Also, Georgia continues to be target of Western so-called elites. They failed in previous years a couple of times to destabilize Georgia, to orchestrate regime change, and the Western elites are not happy with the current Georgian government because official Tbilisi refused to sacrifice the interests of their fellow citizens, interests of the republic, and open second front, kind of against Russia. And Georgian leadership was very clear on that. They were saying it openly that Western so-called leaders were demanding from Tbilisi to open a second front and basically sacrifice their country. And the Western elites are not having this. I mean, they don't having none of it. They are trying hard to destabilize country, to orchestrate regime change. And well, this is a video from yesterday evening, I believe. Just take a look. This is police, by the way. Right next to Parliament building. This is Rustaveli Avenue, I believe, in the city center. And take a look at these Protestants, by the way. Do they really care about Georgia? Look, flags that they are carrying. Few Georgian flags, but majority are flags of Ukraine, US, EU. What the hell is going on? You don't even have to guess, by the way, who is behind this attempts to destabilize country, isn't it? You don't even have to guess. You can see it, right, with your own eyes. You know, I hope Georgian government, Georgian security services are on top of the game, and they will secure Georgian society and the republic from these extremist forces that are clearly operating on the orders of the Western so-called elites and their secret services, and through all sorts of means that they have to influence their internal policies in Georgia. And unfortunately, there is a lot of NGOs, by the way, even media outlets in Georgia, in Serbia also, that are controlled and financed from the West, right? And are pushing for whatever narratives they've been ordered to push. And they are constantly brainwashing people because they have means to do it. You know? And therefore, I think it's a mistake. It's a grave mistake on part of Belgrade and on part of Tbilisi, on part of every capital worldwide to play in this game, so-called game, by the way, that West is pushing with the rules of the West. You play with their rules in their game, you're gonna lose, right? So only way out, by the way, only way forward, I will say, is to ban all these NGOs that are receiving funds from the West. ban all the media, so-called media outlets that are funded from outside of the country. It should be illegal, by the way. It should be illegal. TV stations, by the way, entire freaking TV stations that are broadcasting 24/7 to be funded from the outside of the country. It's crazy, isn't it? By funds that are clearly affiliated with the secret services of the Western countries. So why Tbilisi is playing these games? Why Belgrade is playing these games, man? If they actually want to fully secure the society and their country from these destructive forces. I don't know. I don't get it, man. That it is what it is. And well, there is destabilization attempts in Serbia. This is Tbilisi, by the way, yesterday evening. Is it normal, man? I don't think so. Look at this. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. You know, I have relatives in Georgia. I have many, I know many people in Georgia. I was born in the Soviet Union, in the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic. I grew up in Tbilisi, by the way. I lived there, grew up there, worked there. And I know quite well, by the way, Georgia, right? And based on my information, these extremist groups are, even though they have a good enough financing means, material financial assistance from the West, they're becoming more and more marginalized, by the way. Based on information that I'm receiving from Georgia, these extremist groups are becoming more and more marginalized, and this leaves me with a cautious optimism that hopefully society will stay strong and united. State institutions will stay strong and united, will not allow West to destabilize country and to destroy country, basically, while sacrificing it for their own geopolitical agenda. But situation is difficult, that's for sure. And also, dear friends, let me share you one more news that I think you might find interesting, which is that during the preparations for military parade to commemorate victory in the Second World War over the Japan, in Beijing, by the way, in China, quite a number of interesting new military vehicles were spotted. And well, I want to share with you some pictures, by the way, that were made in Beijing, I believe. And one picture is especially interesting. So let's start with this one. Looks like some relatively new type of tank in Chinese military, in Chinese army. Potentially, this turret of this tank is unmanned, right? You can see two hatches in the front, so potentially this turret is unmanned. Tank itself looks like a light tank, maybe 35-40 tons, something like that. I have not seen this tank earlier, so I think it is interesting to highlight. Also, some other pictures. A lot of drones, by the way, were spotted. A lot of drones. One you can see right there on the picture. Also, some missile systems that have not been seen before, and there are people are now guessing what the hell is that. And this is air defense missiles, I guess. Also, some probably air defense system or tactical missile system, if there is missiles in the back of this truck there. But most interesting picture that I see, dear friends, is this one. Most interesting picture that I see is this one. And already speculations began on the internet that, well, Beijing has built their analog of Russian Poseidon nuclear-powered, nuclear-tipped torpedo, right? in Russian torpedo called Poseidon, and allegedly its warhead is about 100 megatons, and they're well capable of creating a tsunami wave while detonated in a close proximity from shore, which will obliterate obviously coastal line, military base, or whatever industrial area, or whatever gonna be on the way of this wave. And there seems like Chinese are moving in very same direction. Take a look at this picture, by the way. This torpedo must be in a length at least like 15 meters, 20 meters. I mean, it's a massive one, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, you cannot tell, judging by this picture, if this torpedo is nuclear powered, as it is the case with Russian Poseidon. That's why Russian Poseidon has unlimited range, because it has nuclear engine, right? It's powered by nuclear engine. But if this Chinese torpedo is also powered with nuclear engine, then well, I guess U.S. militaries will have a very close look at this weapon system. Same goes for Japanese side. It's Nemes, by the way. Can you imagine how much damage can China deal to coastal line of for east coast of US, for example, if full-scale war will broke between the two countries? They can obliterate their entire coastal line of eastern US. Sorry, western US, by the way, west side. Western coastline of US. Although if it's nuclear powered, then these torpedoes can move anywhere, right? They can actually hit eastern coastline too, because if they copied Russian Poseidon, then they should not have range limitations. But this is definitely something dangerous, tremendously dangerous, by the way. So yeah, and clearly Beijing wanted this torpedo to be seen, by the way. Russia never demonstrated Poseidon, right? Never. I mean, we just know that Russia has in its inventory these Poseidon torpedoes, but clearly Beijing wanted this weapon system to be seen, especially by Tokyo and especially by Washington. And they're going to see it, by the way, for sure. They're going to see it, and well, it's going to be, terrifying. Let's hope there will be no full-scale war between no nuclear powers, by the way, including China and US. But, well, we are living in a crazy times, isn't it? We are living in a crazy times, and anything is possible. And this is it for a news segment, dear friends. Hopefully you did find it informative and useful. And now community chat. Let me join community chat. Seems like there was not single donation, or there was donations. Was there any super chat or? I mean, Boosty, right? So, dear friends, there was donations through Boosty. So let me highlight donations from the Boosty, and also yesterday late evening, there was donation from Patrick, right? So yesterday evening, there was donation from Patrick, member of our community, $35. Many thanks to Patrick for donation, and I will count that $35 too for this fundraising. So let me highlight now two donations that I received during this stream on Boosty. So there was one donation, this $7,711 rubles from Mik Chinik. Thank you very much for your donation. I appreciate your support. This is $100, by the way, $100 donation, right? Based on current exchange rate. Comment is, well done, Levan. I love your passion and your information is sound. Thank you very much, Mick, for your very generous supporter. I appreciate. Truly grateful. Thank you, and many thanks for kind words. And dear friends, also there was and that was a subscription. And also, let me highlight, dear friends, that Meek also joined our community on Boosty with a 500 ruble subscription, monthly subscription. Thank you very much, Meek, for your support. Truly grateful. Thank you. And there was a on PayPal, right? And there was donation on our PayPal, dear friends, of $20 from Natalia. But this donation is from Bald Eagle. Bald Eagle, a member of our community, right? Thank you very much for your support. And there was another donation of $10 through PayPal from Elaine. Thank you very much, Elaine, for your support. And comment is, thanks for great reporting from Russia. Thank you very much for your kind words and for your support. Truly grateful. And there was a donation of $6 on our PayPal also from Dale. Dear friends, as always, whenever there is donation on our PayPal, I'm only using first name. If I have permission in the comment to use full name, I'll do it, but otherwise only first name. And yes, thank you, Dale, for your donation of $6. There was no comment there, and my wife Anya is assisting me. Many of you know understood straight away, of course. And Alfie. That's the correct pronunciation, right? Alfie. My apologies if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you very much, Alfie, for your generous donation of $55. Truly grateful. Thank you. Many thanks to all of you, dear friends, for your support. And I think we did succeed, dear friends, with the goal of today's fundraising. So many thanks to everybody who helped with that. Truly grateful. And dear friends, let me join you in our community chat now. I will scroll, and whenever I see the comment or the question directed to me, I will react on that. Capital Q's will, of course, help on from Sandy. There was a, yes, Annie is correcting me that there was a $6 from a Sandy on PayPal. Thank you very much, Sandy, for your support. And let me join the community chat now, and I will scroll slowly. Today is a big community chat, right? Main community chat for the week. So I will scroll slowly and try to react on questions. And dear friends, I remind you, if I may, that as I announced a couple of days ago, from next week, I might start publishing this community chat parts of our videos, of our live streams, also as a separate video, because quite often we have a conversation in a community chat about topics that are also interesting, but was not a part of a news segment itself. So many members of community and guests of the channel, let's say, might find that conversation interesting and informative too. So I think it will work. Let's see from the reaction of the community. So I'm scrolling now, chat. Capital Qs, dear friends, and capital letters will make it easier to spot the question or the comment that you want to highlight. Danny DeWaal is commenting, Trump and Putin played a poker game over Zelensky's liver in Alaska. I mean, I think that meeting in Alaska may go down in history. I don't want to make very strong statements, but theoretically speaking, if things will go positively, and if we actually manage to reach the escalation and the ceasefire, not just the ceasefire, but peace, by the way, that's the main goal, to reach peace, right? So if we really manage to reach peace as an aftermath of that Trump Putin summit, then that meeting may go down in history as something as big or close to the summit in Yalta, by the way. Potentially, I mean, yet again, this might be too strong a statement to compare that summit in Anchorage to Yalta. I understand that, but if as a result of this meeting, we will see actual peace, by the way, and through the escalation, then I mean, this meeting gonna go down in history as one of the major events of the 21st century for sure. I'm quite sure about it, because after that, by the way, if we manage to achieve peace, we might see tremendous improvement potentially of the relationships between Russia and US, and this will have a greater influence on whole world. I think, if Russia, India, and US have a great relationships, by the way, and I have to mention India, by the way, for sure, then this triangle might have a great positive influence on world developments. Potentially, maybe I'm too optimistic in this regard, but I mean, you just never know. But I agree with you, Danny DeWaal, absolutely. That meeting probably terrified not just Zelensky, but all of the leaders of the European countries that are controlled by the globalists, for sure. And you see reactions, isn't it? You see meltdown in globalist-controlled media, and you see meltdown among public figures in the West, in US, in Europe, public figures that are allies of the globalists, right? They are hysterical. Oh, there was a Boosty, by the way. Let me highlight Boosty. There was a donation on a Boosty, dear friends. Just a sec. So there was a donation from Jerry Kogan on a Boosty. Thank you very much, Jerry, for your support, for your donation. 386 ruble donation, which is in dollars. How much that will? Five. Thank you very much for your $5 donation. And there is a comment from Jerry. I have felt for at least 7 years that Putin and Trump are allied against the globalists and the banking system that sustains their oppressive Anglo-American empire. Alaska has strengthened my belief, and I can see logic behind your statement, Jerry. I hope you are correct because, as you can see, I'm cautiously optimistic too after this summit. I don't want to go too optimistic. But I think we have good enough reasons to be at least partially optimist, right? That maybe some great things will come out from this Trump-Putin summit. First of all, we might actually see peace, by the way, not some temporary solutions, not just some temporary, some ceasefires and stuff, but actual peace. Let's see how powerful the influence of the American first forces are on European globalist control regimes. Hopefully, they will succeed to force them to agree on a peace. And on other hand, yet again, as I just said a few minutes ago, if success comes, then this success is going to be big, right? We might see actual peace, by the way, which is going to be tremendous, right? Tremendous success. And on top of that, we might see great improvement in the relationships between Washington and Moscow, and that will influence whole world. I believe in a positive way, right? And obviously, we have to mention New Delhi too, because I think for the world's better security, we need to have this triangle, working triangle, Moscow, New Delhi, Washington, that will be integrated also in emerging multipolar world, and will ensure that no one country, I would not name the names of the countries, but to make sure that no one country will try to pull their situation towards the unilateral control, right? We already have seen how devastating unilateral leadership or domination of one group of forces are since the collapse of Soviet Union. That's all we have seen, right? And the world was devastated, by the way, and will feel that devastation for decades to come. Take a look at the Europe, by the way. Many countries in Europe, many cities are unrecognizable already as a result of this devastating policies that was implemented by the Western elites, right, during last 30, 40 years. And so, yes, I can see you are coming from, and I want to be optimistic, by the way. I mean, not too optimistic because I don't want to be disappointed, but let's be hopeful that we're gonna see peace soon as possible. Moscow is open for that. Seems like today, at least, Washington is also on that page, same page with Moscow, to reach actual peace, right? And if we succeed in that, then so much can be done, by the way, in a positive way, right? So clearly there is a great potential. So thank you very much, Jerry, once again for your support. I appreciate that, and thank you for your comment. And there was a super chat, dear friends. Let me highlight super chat, dear friends. Super chat from T Dude, 8300. Thank you very much, T Dude, for your $50 donation on Rumble, through Rumble super chat, and comment from T Dude. This awesome video, and thank you very much for your kind words, sir, and for your donation. I appreciate that. Truly grateful. Thank you, dear friends. Today, a second time since this fundraising streams, we did manage to reach the goal of the fundraising. So thank you very much to all of you for support. Thank you. And let me join the community chat again. My apologies if I unwillingly miss your question or the topic, dear friends. Capital letters will definitely help to spot your question or the comment. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Luan, Ukraine must not have sea access after dust settles. Well, I agree with you. And my hope is that first we will reach peace. Let's hope this will work out. Let's hope U.S. administration gonna stay on a same page that it is right now, that they want to see lasting peace instead of some temporary measures as globalists were pushing. And if we will manage to achieve peace, then I think it's going to be inevitable referendums, first elections to take place on Kiev controlled territory, and then referendums, right? So that people will have the say. And I truly believe that if people in Kharkov region, locals, by the way, in Kharkov region, in Dnipropetrovsk region, Nikolaev region, Odessa region, other regions, by the way, especially in the central, northern, southern regions, were asked, do they want to be part of this creation of the Bolsheviks on the name of Ukraine, or do they want to go a separate way or join Russian Federation? I'm quite sure they will vote to leave their Ukraine, secede from Ukraine, and to join Russian Federation, as it was done in Crimea, by the way, in Kherson region, Zaporozhye region, DPR, and the LPR. I really have no doubts about it. Despite all the propaganda of the Western-controlled terrorist regime of Zelensky now and before Zelensky by previous regime, I think majority of locals will say that they want to secede from Ukraine and join Russian Federation. Anyways, by the way, people must have a say, and all of us should respect their decision, right? That's how it should be, and probably it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, and I truly don't believe even for a second that people in Odessa region will say to stay in Ukraine. It's not happening, by the way. They are Russians, right? Odessa is a Russian city. They are Russian people, by the way, and they will, of course, join Russian Federation. Just let them have a say, But on the first stage, of course, let's reach peace first, and hopefully it will work out. We do have, I don't want to be seen as overly optimistic, but I think after this summit in Anchorage, and after statements from White House that they prefer sustainable peace over some temporary solutions like temporary ceasefire and stuff. After these statements, I think we do have objectively, we do have some indicators to be at least cautiously optimistic, isn't it? That maybe peace is near. But I agree with you absolutely that Ukraine, if Ukraine will maintain statehood on a political map, should not have access to the Black Sea, 100%, because otherwise globalists will constantly gonna try, by the way, constantly gonna try to intervene, to escalate, to do some sabotage and so on, and we just cannot have it. And Michael Kennedy, hello, Michael. Michael Kennedy is, and hello, everyone, dear friends, of course, once again. And of course, Michael, I agree with you 100%. Odessa is Russia, is a Russian city, and that's how it's gonna be always, right? And just give the locals chance, opportunity to have a say, right, about their future. And I'm 100% convinced, by the way, that they will vote in a referendum to secede from Ukraine and to join Russian Federation. But anyways, let them say, let them have a say, and let's agree that we will respect whatever decision will be made by the people. Danny Dowell is commenting, I got a feeling that they are vaporized by their TOS flamethrower system. I guess, Danny, you are commenting about French groups, French mercenaries on the right bank of the Dnieper River. Based on reports, Russian troops neutralized these French units with the drone strikes. But in other cases, who knows? There was at least several reports, isn't it? When, as a result of Russian precise strikes, points of concentration of foreign mercenaries were destroyed, obliterated, and we all remember, isn't it, that there was a report at one point that up to 70 fighters of French Foreign Legion were killed, by the way, during the one single strike on one of the deployment points, right? France never recognized that they actually sent their Foreign Legion units into Ukraine, but we have good enough indicators to assume that French Foreign Legionnaires were fighting and still are fighting in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And I remember also reports, by the way, that were suggesting that fighters of the members of the French Foreign Legion were asked by their officers, their commanding officers knew what was going on, and French Foreign Legion members that were either from Eastern Europe or knew on any level Russian language, they were allowed basically and even encouraged to join private military companies to go to fight in Ukraine basically, and they were not even enlisted while they were fighting in Kiev-controlled territory against Russia. They were not even enlisted from being members of French Foreign Legion. There was reports about that too. So once this conflict will end, I don't know how long French government going to classify this report, this information about casualties among French militaries, actual militaries. But at one point, this information going to be come available for the public, and the number of casualties of French troops going to be in hundreds. I have no doubts about it. As it is in potentially hundreds when it comes to casualty number of British militaries, especially special forces. And I still remember, I will always remember, by the way, when Prigozhin, head of Wagner PMC, in a video said that there was an occasion when they participated in exchange of bodies of the killed personnel, and they transferred their bodies of SIS fighters to Ukrainian side, and subsequently, they were then transferred to UK. So SAS also has suffered tremendously in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, and their numbers are going to be significant because SAS is a relatively small. When it comes to manpower, it's relatively small special forces, and every fighter is counts, right? UK spends millions and millions to train those operators, right? And when a couple of units of SAS are obliterated, or same goes for maritime special forces of UK, also elite units. They had significant casualties too, right? So it's gonna UK gonna feel, UK militaries, by the way, these losses, right? I don't know how long they're gonna keep information classified, but at one point we're gonna receive their more information. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, that tank are for Himalayas. They are struggling with their oxygen in those altitudes. Oh, thank you for additional information, Nidish. I think that might be the case. Relatively light tank that would be adapted to high altitudes where there is lesser oxygen for mountain sites. Yeah, clearly possibility, because it does not look like a main battle tank, traditional main battle tanks that China has, isn't it? Type 90 something, or that's what they call their tanks, isn't it? But we're gonna see during that parade, we're gonna see some interesting military equipment. And that torpedo, by the way, was clearly shown, especially like openly, right? Beijing wants the world to see, especially US and Japan, to see that they are either working to develop their analog of Russian Poseidon, nuclear-powered, nuclear-tipped torpedo, or maybe already have in their inventory. Maybe they have already developed and they're actually producing in a mass scale. Who knows? But I was impressed by that torpedo, man. It's something that everybody should pay attention to, by the way, especially with the coastlines. And Danny DeWal is also commenting, no more aircraft carriers. Well, those torpedoes definitely can obliterate aircraft carrier strike groups, for sure. I mean, they will stood no chance, absolutely. And you don't have to bring this torpedo like very close. I mean, you detonate in relatively close proximity warhead, and their waves and radiation will do the same, will do the rest. So aircraft, these aircraft strike groups, aircraft carrier strike groups, by many have been seen as obsolete for quite a long time now, because if it comes to full-scale war between nuclear powers, then even without these torpedoes, I mean, you might target approximate area of deployment of this strike group, aircraft carrier, also support vessels, right? There is always at least 3 to 5, sometimes even more support vessels that are moving simultaneously, underwater support vessels that are moving simultaneously with the aircraft carrier, and at least 1 or 2 submarines that are also escorting, right, the strike group. And all you need to do is to detonate nuclear weapon above or around this strike group in like 3 to 5 miles radius, and that's it. EMP will destroy all their electronic equipment, and heat wave, shock wave will do the rest. Radiation will do the rest. So yes, in case of full scale war between nuclear superpowers, aircraft carriers definitely are obsolete. If you are fighting non-nuclear superpower, aircraft carriers can be useful in that case. Yes, of course, but among nuclear powerhouses, among major superpowers, nuclear, aircraft carriers wouldn't not gonna do much really. I mean, they are just like sitting ducks, isn't it? Nidish Kumar is also commenting on the video that on the photos, by the way, that it's a missile which releases torpedoes at the end. I guess you are talking about that. I'm going to show you the picture right now. I think you are talking about this one. This one could be. I mean, it does looks like a torpedo, but I'm not quite sure what that thing is. Uh, Maybe it's a torpedo actually. After all, I'm not military expert, isn't it? So it you know I have not seen this stuff earlier, but I was not really impressed by this weapon system. I was impressed by this one. I mean, this uh, torpedo. It's not even torpedo, by the way. It's just underwater drone, right? We can call it a torpedo, but it's basically underwater drone with their unlimited range. If it's a copy of a Russian Poseidon, and if it has a nuclear uh, power source, it's impressive, by the way, and that's scary. Let's be real. I mean, it's terrifying, isn't it? Can you imagine what might happen to west coast of the U.S. if there is a war between China and U.S. and if China launch these submersibles, like 10 or 20 of them or 50 of them towards US's west coast, man, they will obliterate the entire coastline. And that coastline, if they are using cobalt also in their warhead, then that coastal line gonna be radioactive for tremendous amount of time, right? Unlike thermonuclear warheads that are adapted mainly that leave radiation for 10, 15, 20 years, and after that basically radiation is gone because during the thermonuclear reaction, fusion reaction, basically radioactive isotopes have a relatively or quite short actually lifespan. If cobalt is used, that's a whole different story. It's exactly the opposite, right? But anyway, this is a terrifying weapon, and China clearly wants to send a message to US first of all by demonstrating this weapon. You know, uh, Smoky Sally is commenting. Where did the new moderator go? We did not have a new moderator. I have to ask Banzo, by the way, our moderator on Rumble, to help her with the moderation on. Okay. You are talking about my wife. Okay, okay. My wife has her moderator functions also, by the way. Anna. I understand now. Dear friends, sir, capital letters, sir, we will make it easier to spot your question. And my apologies if I miss your question. Left side crew is commenting, asking what happened to the Soviet era kitchen wallpaper background, or are you back in Georgia now? Oh, no, I'm back in Moscow, by the way. I'm back in Moscow. We came yesterday early morning. I was not sure if I would manage to make yesterday's live stream, but I did. I just had like a couple of hours to prepare the program, and members of our community did find it interesting. Hopefully, right? So yes, we are back to Moscow. And it was a good trip, by the way, in North Ossetia, Alania, Autonomous Republic of the Russian Federation. We went for 3 weeks for summer holiday to Vladikavkaz, capital of Alania, and it was great, especially because I did kept my word. I promised to my kids that they will go to grandma this summer, and I promised to my mom that her grandkids will come to her this summer, and we did it. And also, by the way, it was very important also because my younger daughter was baptized in Vladikavkaz during this trip. My younger daughter was baptized during this trip, enjoying Orthodox Christianity officially, and also my older daughter turned 18, so a lot of positivity there, and also I am happy, additionally happy that me and my wife, we managed to find a new flat for my mom, more comfortable one, and she's happy, and so it was good. By the way, it was good. We spent there for looking for new flat, and for a move from one place to another, like 2 weeks plus. It took quite time, but we managed to do it. So yeah, it was a good trip. It was a good trip, and we are back to Moscow now. Thank you for your question. Stavros Karagorgis is sorry, Stavros, I'm not pronouncing your surname correctly. Stavros Karagorgis is asking, why, in your opinion, do people who are not usually followers of either Western MSM or Ukrainian propaganda become so gullible when armed forces of Ukraine engaged in counter-offensives? Ayn, can you tell me what gullible means? It's like Gullible. I just don't know what that word means. So sorry, dear friends, my English is far from being even good. I'm trying. Gullible. Доверчивый. Okay. Why they are becoming доверчивый, gullible? Oh, I don't know. Maybe, after all, maybe they are still influenced by the Western propaganda, and therefore, maybe they don't want to demonstrate that they're being influenced. Maybe they don't want to be seen as Russia haters, but they are latent Russia haters, and that's why maybe they are believing in all their nonsense that they hear from either Western propaganda or Ukrainian propaganda when it comes to counteroffensives or any sort of alleged success of Kyiv regime's forces. I don't know. I don't know. Unfortunately, I mean, this is a high-intensity battle, isn't it? And unfortunately, time to time, Kiev regime's forces might have some local-scale success here and there. After all, it all depends, isn't it? How many troops are attacking, how many troops are in the defense. There is a tremendous importance on dozens and dozens of other elements, right? From landscape of the area or to communication lines, logistics, and so on. And what? Naive. It's like naive. Oh, okay, gullible, like naive. So I don't know. Maybe those people just are latent Russia haters or something, and they are trusting in all kind of nonsense that they might hear about some alleged successes of Kiev regime. Unfortunately, yet again, sometimes they might actually manage to achieve some local scale success. After all, this is a large scale, high intensity conflict, isn't it? But I mean, if one truly follows the news, then I don't think anyone in that case will have any doubts that initiative is in Russian hands completely, all along the front line, by the way. Initiative is in Russian hands, period, right? That's my answer, if I understood your question correctly, Stavros. If this gullible means доверчивые, why they are believing in all sorts of nonsense or something. Maybe that's right. They are potentially latent Russia haters or something. I don't know. Maybe they want Russia to lose, but they are not acknowledging this, or I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there are different peoples, isn't it? And if one actually follows the news, then that person knows that Russia is on offensive. Russia is in uncomparably better position than Kiev regime's forces. It's just factual, objective reality, and it is what it is. No matter how many billions West gonna send, what amount of or what volume of weapons and munition, Russian troops are in charge, by the way, and that was the case always, right? That was the case always. Some people do speculate time to time that, well, remember retreat from Kharkov region and Kherson region. Well, dear friends, one should, while saying this, one should always keep in mind that on initial stages, Russia never planned that this operation will turn into attrition war style of campaign, right? Initial goal, as far as I can tell, was to pressure Kiev regime to begin negotiations, and this initial phase was successful in this regard. There was negotiations in Istanbul, right, and the preliminary agreements between the sides. And that agreement, by the way, that Russia was offering to Kiev regime was far, far more favorable for them than ones that they eventually will have to agree now, right? But we all know what happened. Boris Johnson from UK, who was the prime minister at the time, then also officials from US, CIA, State Department, and others went to Kiev, derailed these talks, right? Turned down the agreement, and after that, it has become clear for Russian side that, well, this special military operation now has to change, right? Because now we are dealing with a long-term military campaign, and therefore, if initial phase was to move troops as fast as possible, as far as possible, and Russian troops reached outskirts of Kiev, then on that second phase, it was also obvious that, well, now we have to then take the positions that we can actually fight from, right? And that's why there was a regroup from Kharkov region, that's why from Chernigov region. I mean, Russian withdrawal forces, by the way, you remember, isn't it? That after Istanbul talks, the Russian side officially said that, okay, as a gesture of goodwill, we will just withdraw troops, right? And that's what happened in Chernigov region, for example. But still, because After that, because the agreement was derailed by the West, positions have to be adjusted, and that's why Russia regrouped troops from the Kharkov region, and later on, it has become objective reality that, well, because this is attrition war style of campaign now, we have to regroup our forces, withdraw basically from right bank of the Kherson, also because of the logistics, right? Because of the logistics. And their decision based on objective reality on the ground now was a correct one, right? Yet again, I'm not a military expert, by the way, and I'm in no position to make judgments about decisions of Russian general staff. I mean, those people, they have a knowledge, by the way. They learned all their lives how to organize military operations, right? And they know what to do and why. But based on objective reality right now, we know that Russia made decisions that were reinforcing its positions, right? And making positions or position of Russian troops and special military operation more secure, right? And sustainable. And since 2022, all we see is Russian advantage, right? All we see is Russian advantage. In 2023, NATO orchestrated this large-scale offensive of a Kiev regime in Zaporozhye sector direction on southern sectors. We all know what happened, right? Russian armed forces decimated these dozens of advancing brigades of the Kiev regime that were unable to even cross the first line of defense. Only area where they did kind of reach first line of defense was Rabotina settlement. Remember Rabotina settlement in Zaporozhye region? That was it, right? And they were stopped there. And according to reports, Kiev regime, as a result of Kiev regime and NATO mercenaries, as a result of that, NATO orchestrated their offensive, lost up to 150, 170,000 troops. It was a tremendous failure, by the way, of NATO, because that operation was fully planned by NATO, right? Fully organized. Weapons were from NATO. I remember that famous place with the graveyard of Bradleys and Leopard 2 tanks and stuff. Like dozens of these vehicles were destroyed in one particular point, and such points were numerous, right? So it was a tremendous failure on their part. And then they come up in 2024, they come up with their invasion of the Kursk salient area, where the regime also lost like 100,000 troops, or above that, 70,000 troops. I cannot give you exact number now, but definitely more than 70,000 troops, right? And that was a total failure also for the regime, isn't it? They wasted their strategical reserves, and what they achieved, or what NATO achieved with that operation. And these failures, by the way, of operations of NATO, and it was clearly NATO operations, clearly highlights that educational system, military educational system in the West is definitely not up to time, because how could they plan these poorly military operations if we are taking a look at the situation from a side, let's say? How those generals of NATO, US generals, British generals, German generals, and French generals, and rest of them, how they did manage to plan this operation so poorly? I don't know, and I think we should agree with the military expert, U.S. military expert of Russian origin, Martyanov, who is quite critical of actual, level of professionalism of the NATO officers, high command of NATO. He is a military expert, and I have no reason to doubt his judgment. And factual evidences also are supporting Martyanov's assessments, right? Left side crew is also commenting, Trump is the comrade Chernenko of the American empire, whose policy decision-making process is based upon agreement with the last person who speaks with him. I see your point, left side crew. I definitely see your point, and there are many experts from US itself are pointing out exactly that, isn't it? As I mentioned earlier, including Scott Ritter and Colonel Douglas McGregor, that are quite frequent guests on Judge Napolitano's show, also on Daniel Davis' show. And dear friends, if by chance you are not familiar with the channels that I mentioned under this video on YouTube, by the way, in the description box there is a recommendation list of over a dozen of channels that I follow, and you can find those channels there, and also other great channels, by the way, like Duran and New Atlas and many others, right? So they are also saying that, well, with Trump, there is such a nuance that it is important who speaks with him last. And that's why I was saying during the news segment today that I hope America First Force will keep initiative in its hands and will not allow assets of the globalists or the allies of the globalists to have opportunity to influence Trump, because they might, right, if they have enough time with the Trump for that matter. So therefore, it's about America First Force. First of all, how competent they are, right, and they have to be if they want best for America, right? They have to keep Trump outside of influence of globalists and globalist allies, and they do have allies, by the way. First of all, they have entire regimes in Europe, right? And also they have allies in US, unfortunately, and they're quite influential ones. All media in the US, almost all media is controlled by globalists, right? And their allies. They have allies in deep state, among neocons, so nothing to be said about Democrat establishment, right there. So you have a point, 100%, 100%, that it is important who speaks with him last, and it's up to America First Force to make sure that they're not going to lose initiative. And and hopefully they will be in charge, right? And that will be good for US itself, first of all for US citizens, and then for the rest of the world. More adequate policies US will pursue, the better, right? It's nothing to really discuss there. Jerry Cogan is commenting, I am encouraged by how many people underestimate Trump and think he's an idiot. That's exactly how you outsmart people. You make them underestimate you, then you knock them out. Well, you do have a point, Jerry. What can I say? I mean, no one expected, really. I mean, very few expected. You might expect it, Jerry, but I was skeptical, Many people were skeptical that something good would come out from this Alaska summit. And, while summit happened, I mean, we have to stay true, right, to ourselves, to reality, and acknowledge that, well, summit was not really the failure, and maybe we have good enough indicators to think that maybe something really positive will come out of this meeting. First of all, in terms of achieving actual sustainable peace when it comes to Ukrainian crisis, and also in terms of improving relationships between Washington and Moscow, between US and Russia. And if this will happen, then this summit, as I said, this summit in Alaska might go down in history as one of the major events of 21st century. That's how it's going to be. Let's hope it's success. Let's hope we have good enough indicators for now for cautious optimism, but let's wait and see. Hopefully, globalists not going to be able to influence Trump and change his stance now, so that not just Trump but whole administration in US will stay on this page that they want de-escalation, they want peace, and hopefully we will succeed. And by we, I mean whole of humanity, by the way, with the exception of globalists in particular and globalist control regimes. The rest of the humanity will succeed. It will be our success for all of us if we will manage to achieve peace there. Yet again, dear friends, my apologies if unwillingly I miss your question or the comment that you want that was directed to me and you wanted to be highlighted. Michael Kennedy is commenting, SAS have lost a lot, irreplaceable. I think so too. I'm on the same page with you, Michael, on that. We're not gonna know for quite a while exact losses of SAS, and also UK has this bot special service or something. I cannot remember exact name. Another very powerful special forces, and they had significant casualties too, as far as I know. You're not going to remember all the reports, right? These thousands and thousands of reports that I went through since the beginning of special military operation. But I do believe that there was instances when that special bot service or something special force was also having the casualties, and SAS, of course, also. And it's a big deal because, yet again, millions of pounds are spent to train these operators, right? These are highest level of specialists, and to waste those specialists in this proxy war, that was a crime against UK that was committed by British government, if you ask me. But yet again, it's up to British citizens to demand the answers from the government, and I'm quite sure at some point families of killed British militaries, no matter what kind of papers they have signed with the government, not to disclose information and stuff, and no matter how much compensation they receive, in financial terms. At one point, some family members of this killed British military personnel gonna start talking with the press, and most likely that's how we're gonna find out more information, because information itself will be classified. Official information will be classified probably for decades and decades to come by London. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, you are wrong. Houthis made their mockery of aircraft carriers. Well, you have a point, Nidish, isn't it? I mean, you have a point. I forget about that. I mean, nevertheless, I mean, aircraft carriers, they are formidable force, obviously, by the way. I mean, you have depends on what type of aircraft carrier it is, but you have from 40 to up to 100 planes and helicopters, by the way, at any point in the sea, right, in ocean, which is a big deal, of course. But yet again, only airstrikes are not enough to reach whatever military targets you might have, especially if you want to force to submission the hostile side, right? And you are absolutely correct, Nidish. Houthis prove that, well, even though, yes, I believe aircraft carriers are still formidable force, especially if used against their non-major superpowers, they are also vulnerable. They are also vulnerable, and if a military and political goal of the country which deploys this aircraft carrier is a wrong, mistaken one, then nothing aircraft carrier crew can do, right? They did bomb Houthis for how many months, and what? Eventually, Washington was forced to basically reach some agreement with the Houthis to de-escalate, because on daily basis, Houthis were launching dozens of drones, missiles towards this strike group, right? Even reports were coming in at least a couple of times that actually aircraft carrier was hit, and number of supporting vessels. I believe U.S. lost 3 FA-18s during deployment of its strike group in the Red Sea against Houthis. They lost those planes as a result of accidents, but nevertheless, they lost it, right? Yes, I can see your point absolutely, that if a task for a strike group is arranged wrongly by political leadership, then aircraft carriers not going to do much, right? Because it was obvious from the beginning that with airstrikes, U.S. not going to force Houthis to submission. It's not happening because I don't know how anybody in Washington could not know that before them, Saudi Arabia, by the way, UAE and their allies were bombing very same Houthi rebels for 9 straight years. And they even had ground forces in the place, right? And what they achieved, not much really. And eventually they were forced to sign a sort of a peace agreement with Houthis. So when you have this example, and Washington did have this example, why they were thinking that they're gonna have a different result, I don't know. But they went in and they lose, actually, right? They did not achieve their goal. Houthis still continue, by the way, to launch missiles and drones towards Israel, and they continue to strike vessels in the Red Sea, Arabian Sea, and surrounding areas that are linked to Israel by the information. So Smoky Sally is commenting, congratulations on your daughter's baptism. Very happy that you could do their family trip. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a big deal, of course, for all of us, especially for my younger daughter. Usually in Orthodox Christianity, I don't know how it is in Catholicism or Protestantism, but in Orthodox Christianity, it is a coming place when kids are baptized very young. I was baptized when I was probably, I don't know, a few months old. Obviously, I don't remember that. And, me and my wife, we had a conversation quite a while ago. And I said, you know what? I think it would be a good gesture from us, a good step, if we will allow our kids to decide for themselves, right? And that's what we did. And my younger daughter, she was obviously Orthodox Christian. She grew up in Orthodox Christian culture, but she was not baptized, and she made decision to be baptized, and that's what happened. So it's a big deal, of course. We may not be very religious people, but we are Orthodox Christians. We are living in this culture and maintaining all the traditions, right? And that's how it is. So yes, it was a, big day. Thank you very much, Smoky Sally, for your kind words. I think we were correct. I would not be against if I was given opportunity to decide myself when I want to be baptized, or if I want to be baptized at all. But I was not. Maybe they asked me, but when I was like I don't know 3 months old, I did not uh, really made decision. So we act differently, and I think this is a right way. Although I don't think anything is wrong to baptize their kids when they are very young. It's a part of tradition also. So I have no issues with their. Everyone has its own way, right? Dear friends, seems like I went to maybe not all. I'm quite sure I did miss some questions, but I think I did react on quite number of comments and the questions. And if I may, I will end this live stream now. It's almost 2.5 hours, and let me thank you, dear friends, for your attention, for your support. I will highlight once again that this is second time during our fundraising streams that our goal of rising $200 for the next week was reached, and there are many thanks to all the members of our community who helped me with that. And many thanks to all of you, dear community, for being here, for your time, for your attention, for your questions and the comments, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let me wish you a great day, and bye for now. See you tomorrow.